Welcome everybody. Absolutely delighted to share with you, a number of thoughts today around how you can make working parents into brand advocates. Super excited to be joined by two other amazing co-hosts. So I'll introduce those in a moment, but I'll take this moment to introduce myself. I'm Jodi. I'm one of the co-founders here at Circle In, and we're very, very proud to, work every day to create a better world for working parents and carers. We now support over 32 companies globally, world-leading companies to better support their working parents and carers, who in turn are benefiting from increased engagement and advocacy, which is essentially why we're here today to talk about, how you can really leverage your working parents, to gain increased advocacy and engagement. So with that, I might hand over to you, Gemma, and you can share a little bit about yourself, and then to Jodi, who is our new GM of Operations here at Circle In. Absolutely thrilled to have her. Yes, another Jodi. But we thought we'd bring her into the conversation today to talk about, everything working parents. So over to you, Gemma.
Thanks, Jodi. Hi, everyone. I'm Gemma Saunders. I'm the founder of Workplace Edit, and I'm part of Circle In's extended circle. I'm one of the flex experts. I think we've been calling me a flexpert, so we'll go with that term for now. I just want to, before we kick off the webinar today, just acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm broadcasting from. I know that Jodi and myself are from different parts. I'm really grateful to be on Wadawurrung land here in the western suburbs of Melbourne, and acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. If you're joining us today, please acknowledge the land that you're on through the chat panel. It's really great to keep that conversation going. And thank you all for joining us today. We're going to have a great conversation. The work that I do really is around shifting diversity, equity and inclusion outcomes by looking at the employee experience. So the niche role that I play is, how do we get better at doing diversity, equity and inclusion differently by taking an employee experience lens, which is why I'm so well connected to the work that Circle In do, because they are experience first, culture first, and really are using the experience to drive these improved outcomes for diversity, equity and inclusion. So thanks for having me, and hopefully I'll be able to shed some little tips and tricks and practical steps that you can take as a result of the webinar today.
Thanks, Gemma.
Over to JR.
And just before we do, I might just mention, we're a team now of 19 here at Circle In. Really proud that we've actually grown the team through COVID. So we've hired, I think, 7 new people over the last few months. And as Gemma mentioned, she's one of our in-house resident experts, and we're looking to launch our broader expert panel in January, which is super exciting. So not only do we have amazing staff in-house, but we work with the best experts outside. So thank you, Gemma, for everything you do with us and for our customers. And JR, I'll let you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and new to the team.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction, Jodi. Wow, it's not intimidating at all following these two women. As Jodi mentioned, I've just joined the team at Circle In as GM of Operations. The first most important thing we had to decide was what everyone was going to call me, because Jodi was certainly going to get super confusing really quickly. So JR has been my nominated nickname, and that's how we're rolling. Really happy to be involved in the conversation today. I guess I kind of am a bit of a new entrant into this wonderful world of diversity, equality and inclusion, which kicked off earlier this year. I think part of why we're so keen to participate in this particular session as well is because we're also talking about brand advocacy, and having spent a better part of 15 years working in media and advertising, I thought it might be great to be able to kind of put a bit of a lens around what else is happening within an organisation around brand and advocacy, and how we can connect those dots with kind of what we're doing, supporting working parents and carers, and everything else in the diversity and inclusion space. So very happy to be involved in the conversation today. I'm incredibly excited to be part of the team at Circle In. Every day is like winning the lottery here. So yeah, thanks to Jodi and everyone else who's been really welcoming, and just, got me off to a great start. So thank you, and looking forward to today.
Terrific. Thank you, JR and Gemma. So with that, we might dive in, and I will present the screen. So to everyone on the call, we want to make this really interactive. I think we've got over 70 people attending today. So please feel free to chat. We're going to answer all of your questions. We've got a few slides that we'll work through that will just, make us stay on track and make sure that we cover everything that we've promised you today. So with that, let's dive in. And obviously we've now introduced ourselves, which is great. But over to the next slide. So let's start with, supporting families is good business. I have the pleasure of speaking with so many companies every day. As I said, we work with, over 32 leading companies now. And I know when we were talking to them about coming on board as a Circle In partner, there's kind of two elements. There's one that it's the right thing to do. So there's that emotive side, and that for a lot of companies, it is the right thing. They genuinely want to do the right thing by their employees and support specifically working parents and carers. But on the other side, there's actually, there's an upside from a business perspective as well. And that is, you get to retain your talent, they're more productive when they return. So there is an ROI in terms of, the business side. So Gem and JR, I don't know if you want to add anything further to that.
Yeah, I think one of the things I would add is part of the work that I do is a board member for one of Australia's leading not-for-profit youth LGBTIQ charities. And one of the conversations that happens in boardrooms and in executive rooms is this idea of, how do we know that our employees are doing the right thing, and what does doing the right thing mean? And, what is our ethical license and social license to operate? And I think that when we think about supporting families, it's good for business. It's about doing the right thing. And when we're talking about that value and that attribute in businesses, I think that's also where this fits. And it might seem like it's a tangent, but when you think about it with that lens, it can often help you talk to executives and board members in a way that really plays to that topic that's been really relevant off the back of certainly off of royal commissions and alike, Jodes.
Yeah, and I might just mention, when we talk about, the upside from a business perspective as well, we ran a model recently for one of our customers who managed to retain a certain number of women coming back from parental leave. And as a result of that, the business savings were huge. So sometimes, a little bit of support goes a long way to those long-term metrics. Look, there's no doubt the world has changed. And we say that, the COVID world has fast-tracked flexibility, 5-10 years. And the reality is that, supporting parents and carers has never been more important. Flexibility is now mainstream, and we know a lot of businesses are now viewing working from home as a smart long-term strategy. It's now the norm, and often what we're hearing is the default is working from home with perhaps 1 or 2 days in the office. I think the other thing we're seeing is, as a result of that, we're seeing increased stress among working parents. So, this new world where we've potentially got, two partners at home, working together, managing the juggle and so forth, whilst also working remotely, supporting them and driving engagement has never been more critical. But with that, I think, because we are now home and we're in this remote world, modern software is critical. So I think what we're certainly seeing is HR are looking for modern tools and ways to engage their parents. So it's no longer about face-to-face workshops or face-to-face coaching. I think for a lot of people we speak to, and we often say we're speaking to forward-thinking organizations, they're wanting something modern. They're wanting something progressive that's tech-based, that actually hits the mark. And I think that's why we're really proud of our platform. And some of the feedback we often receive is it's a modern platform that really supports our modern parents. And I think lastly, we're certainly seeing the role of carers change. We ran a piece of research in July of this year that was featured by Forbes magazine, and it showed that the role of carers has shifted, and that 52% of partners now want to continue playing a more active role ongoing. And even if I speak from my own personal experience, my partner was, husband used to be 5 days a week, leaving home at 7:30, getting home at 6 o'clock at night. Now he's home, we're sharing the load, it's completely shifted. So we just wanted to kind of set the scene in terms of, this new world. So in terms of then, if we dive into what's the current experience, and, again, when we're talking to companies and these are comments that we hear all the time, the reality is that when you don't have the right support in place, it can impact the experience, at a number of levels. Everything from not hearing from your organization for 12 months and feeling like you were forgotten about, and as a result, it impacted your return, and therefore there was a loss of productivity, and that there's a real business cost there. From a HR perspective, we're often, hearing we've got a great policy, but it's the support we need. And then from a manager perspective, it's, you know, managers don't know what to do and they don't know what to say. So often their default is to say nothing. And that's not what we want. So I guess what we're trying to say today is it's, you know, it's providing the right support in the moments that matter throughout the entire employee experience that can have such a huge impact on your employees from both an advocacy and an engagement perspective.
I was just going to jump in, Jodi, and say there's one comment on here that just reminds me of a conversation I had, which is, I have teenagers, but I need support more now than ever. And I remember when I was doing some work around a parental leave review, which was really an important focus for the business, I had one employee say to me, Gemma, how old are your kids? And I was like, oh, they're not in school yet. And he said to me, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. And, you know, I've got some struggles right now with my teenagers, and I've got one that's coming back to live at home who's 19 and just ended up talking to me about some of his struggles around managing life with teenagers. And I think that that's what we're talking about here. Is we are talking about parental leave, absolutely, but we are talking about every type of working parent and carer at all stages and all ages. And the troubles that we have and the challenges we have really do vary depending on that age, that stage. And so taking that really unique employee experience view is what I think, you know, Circle In certainly do so well. And it's great to see these comments having that breadth.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I might just add to that, Gemma, because I think you've touched on a really important point. What we've seen is, you know, when we first launched our offering, we were talking to more, you know, expecting, on leave and just back at work. And we're very much, you know, we have a customer-led approach in everything we do. And it was our customers that were actually saying to us, hey, it's actually, you know, working parents with older kids that need just as much support. So we introduced that, you know, journey stage recently. And what's great to see is 48% of our users across all of our platforms now fall in that journey stage, which is, to your point, saying that it's people with teenagers that need actually just as much support. I've got a 5 and a 7-year-old, not that I want to know that things get harder, but you're right, it's just different at every stage. So it's a really great point. So in terms of the pain points, JR, I might get you to chat to this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I looked at the slide and I was like, these themes are probably very familiar to a lot of you that are attending our webinar today. You know, as a person who works in HR or potentially in organisational development or diversity and inclusion, more than likely these are cropping up in your strategy sessions. They're in your stakeholder reports. You know, they're in one-on-ones with hiring managers. And what we know is that they're all critical to continued success of any organisation. But there are a multitude of challenges, because how do you address all of these? And of course, we know that if you can't address all of these in some way, that's quite dangerous, I guess. It's exceptionally high that, you know, by leaving or kind of one of those verticals untapped, that there could be some repercussions. But the challenge then is, how are you meant to devote all the necessary time and attention to each one of these? It's, you know, there's not like a one-stop solution that kind of manages to kind of touch all of these particular areas. More than likely, you're carving out specific strategies to look at, you know, retention and advocacy, and look at gender equity, and, you know, kind of looking at different ways to address all of those. But I think the key point that I wanted to call out here is that while the focus of today very much will be on parents and carers, the impact of supporting parents in your organisation has benefits that actually intersect across a number of these challenges. If you're providing parents with world-class support, this has positive impacts on your EVP, your company brand, attraction of talent, and it's also a really powerful driver of employee engagement and advocacy, because they're having a great experience and they become the advocates for your organisation. What we know is, and Jodi mentioned this beforehand, it can impact employee retention. So if there are more women returning to work because they've had such great experiences kind of being on parental leave, that's helping your gender equity and making sure that you have a pipeline of female talent, you know, that you have a real focus on career progression, and ultimately it's contributing to your leadership within the organisation. So it's pretty powerful stuff that, by focusing on one specific group of employees, and they might seem like oh, it's parents and carers and they're a small percentage, but they actually form a significant part of most organisations. According to WGEA, about 80% of people in organisations will become parents at some stage. So this is why, I guess, when we talk about parents, it really does have a wide-reaching impact. And impacts all of these particular areas that we've noted there. And I think that, having worked in media for so long, it's like commercial lens on everything. And I suppose, when you're not doing this type of stuff, we know that the pain points are really real. It's tough, and organisations struggle to really kind of get their culture back on board and to really engage with employees in the right way. And ultimately that impacts the bottom line. All of these areas will ultimately impact your cost at some stage. So by just doing one thing, you could potentially have powerful impacts across various intersections in these particular verticals and themes.
Yeah, spot on. So let's look at the current landscape. So we're very insights and data driven at Circle In. So over the last couple of years, we've conducted a number of pieces of research now. So it's very clear to us. We spoke to over 1,000 working parents early on, and 76% told us that they believe their company needs to be doing more to support them through, parental leave and returning to work. But the other two are really interesting, and that is 40% of employees will not recommend their company if they've had a poor parental leave experience. So if we're here today talking about advocacy, the results speak for themselves. So it's clear, when you provide the right support, the upside is huge. And further to that, 53% of parents don't feel that their, senior leaders are role modeling support for working parents. One of the things that we truly believe in is that storytelling is the best way to drive cultural change. So we actually profile and write and curate on behalf of all of our customers stories of their own employees. And we often say, let's profile your senior leaders. Let's demonstrate, that role modeling piece. And as a result, it trickles down and has an enormous impact on culture. So that's just a little bit, and we've got lots more data points. So if anyone was interested, feel free to email us after the session, and we always love sharing our research. But Gem, I might get you to talk to this one around, common pitfalls and what we see time and time again.
Yeah, thanks, Jodi. We wanted to share this with you because I hope by now you're sort of on board with, yes, it's so important to support working parents and working carers in your organisation. So you don't need too much more of the business case. You are on board. So the next question is, well, how do we do that? What does good look like? This is a visual here that hopefully shows you the difference between what a supported experience can look like and what an unsupported or an experience that has minimal attention or support will look like. So we've taken this as a way of looking at the journey from expecting through to on leave, return to work and back to work. And you can see here that if you have a supported experience, what happens when someone is expecting a baby is that managers coach their employees. They're fully prepared for that final conversation, and they actually prepare a parental leave plan in conjunction with that leader. They really feel like they have choice and control in the experience. It's not left to chance. When they're on leave, there are really clear expectations. So I think one of the comments in the previous slides that flashed up was around their parental leave experience. This is a really vulnerable time. If you've been away on parental leave yourselves, or you know someone that has, you can feel really disconnected from the organisation. So making sure that there's a clear plan on how you want to communicate through that period. And again, that nothing's left to chance. We see really good intentions here, but really poorly executed. So a manager might come to an employee and say, oh my gosh, take your 9 months off, have a great time, give me all your devices, you don't want to hear from us, just focus on the baby. That could be really anxiety inducing for one person, and it could be the ideal picture for another, which is why you have to put the person at the center of the decision and really coach and really manage the expectations around what good looks like. When they return to work, again, what's the expectations? What's changed in the business? What's my role looking like now? Have there been any changes to the structure? What do I need to know to set me up for success? That's not just about the employee feeling good about the return. It's actually really productive for the organization. You avoid all those times spent on the employee kind of, sat there. Oh, you just take your time to get up to speed. A lot of people, when they return, they want to have an impact. They want to know that when they've dropped the baby off at daycare or to a grandparent, that when they're coming in for the time at work or logging on for that period, they're having an impact and they're making the most of that time. So setting those expectations and having a really clear return experience, it's no different to onboarding. You have to re-onboard parental leavers and you have to think with that mentality. And then back to work, you know, that first year, 2 years, we want to make sure confidence is uplifted. And that doesn't come just by chance. It comes by having a deliberate approach to what does support look like? What are your expectations and needs through this time, and how can we support you? And what's typically going to go on for that 2 year period? We know for parents, they can really struggle getting into daycare, or they can really struggle with that period of sickness that the child gets when they get right into the childcare system. So what does it look like to take leave and to work flexibly? So that supported experience is what good looks like. Really, if you leave it to chance and you have minimal contact, minimal support, the experience isn't great, and it does lead to attrition, and it leads to disengagement, and it leads to poor productivity, quite frankly. So what we wanted to leave you with is 5 really key design principles from this exercise. And they are to deliberately design the experience. If you don't take time to think, what is the experience we're trying to create for working parents, you are going to leave this to chance, which is the second point. Just don't leave it to chance. Be deliberate. Provide choice and avoid assumptions. So that point around making the assumptions around what someone does and doesn't want, simply flip those assumptions into questions and ask your employees. Keep it inclusive. We've done a huge amount of research at Circle In around the importance of men participating in parental leave, around the need for stillbirth and miscarriage policies. Really, really important. We don't know what's going to happen for each person throughout this period, so we have to show up and put them at the center of what we're doing. And the final one is, 70 to 80%, regardless of what research paper you look at, 70 to 80% of employee experience is the experience that someone has as a result of their manager. So if you invest in your managers, they will take care of the employee experience. So you need to know what that looks like, the mindset, the skill set, and the tools and practical things that managers need to lead this experience well.
Yeah, amazing. And I might just point on that, because I'm myself very passionate about the role managers play and making sure we equip them and support them with the right tools. So we have things, and I love, when you say avoid assumptions, Gemma, because one of the things that we have created recently is downloadable conversation guides for our managers. And what we have created are conversation guides at every stage of the journey. So to have, if someone's about to go off on leave, if someone's just returning, what's the conversation you need to have? How can you recognize your own bias? And how can you make sure that you're having a quality conversation? And again, looking at all of the users across our platform, 56% of users are not only a parent, but they're also a manager. So they need support. And what's great is that we're training them and we're making them be better leaders. So I think your design principles there are fantastic, Gemma. Thank you. So if we look at the opportunities, so we've kind of shared with you now around, what does the current experience look like? The opportunity to really look at each of the different journey stages and the need to provide tailored support at the varying stages. If you do all of that, what does that mean? Well, we've got the data to prove it, in terms of you absolutely see stronger engagement and stronger advocacy. So the top numbers you can see there, 85% and 79%, are a rolled up metric across all of our partners. So the 32 companies that we now work with, we've surveyed the parents on the platform. 85% have told us that they now feel more engaged as a result of the support for working parents. And on the flip side, 79% have said that they're more inclined to recommend their organisation. So if we go back to that slide a few earlier ago, 40% said that they wouldn't recommend their company if they've had a bad parental leave experience. You can see that by providing the right support, it really does have an upside to engagement and advocacy. And we've just highlighted a few of the results from our current partners below. And I could have listed all of them, because honestly, every single one of them has had incredible results. But I mean, Mondelez, 100% now feel more engaged. MLC, 92%. And on the flip side, 100% of parents at Officeworks now are more inclined to, recommend their company. And that is something that, our team feel incredibly proud of. these two metrics. And I don't know if JR or Gemma, you want to add anything further, but yeah, it makes me very happy to see this slide.
I love the advocacy. Oh, sorry, Jay. I was just going to say, I love the advocacy point, because what I think about is once you've got these people who say they are, 79% are more inclined to recommend their organization. If you have 1,000 people in your organization and 790 of them say, we are here ready to recommend the organization to others. Now, whether that's your talent brand or your consumer brand, they are saying we will do it. You already have overcome that barrier of that belief gap and getting people ready to advocate. So now all you need to do is sit with your marketing team and say, we have 790 people ready to go as a marketing channel to advocate for us. How can we make it as convenient as possible for them to use their networks and to promote the work really proudly and authentically, and to showcase and be proud of the products and services we have, and as our organization as well from a talent brand perspective. So, you think the minimum cost for an influencer is $250. You've got 790 that you don't even need to pay for. You just need to think about, how do we easily equip them to vocalize their advocacy? And it's a really great marketing and branding opportunity, and it's authentic. So do something with that with your marketing team once you've got to the position that Officeworks, Western Power and Estee Lauder have here, is to definitely use that as a marketing opportunity in an authentic way. So there's the commercial reality.
Yeah, absolutely, Gemma. And I was actually just, you kind of, nailed the point exactly of, hopefully they're none of my ex-media cronies hanging around here, because what I'm about to say might get me lynched. But that's what we're saying, they're brands that spend, millions and millions of dollars of not only positioning their master brand, but, working on their employee value proposition and really trying to attract people to the organization, both from a consumer perspective and also from a candidate perspective. And one of the things that came out, in another webinar that I was on earlier this year, is that there is a real disconnect between marketing and communications and human resources and organizational development, not knowing that they have these incredible advocates within the business and not leveraging them. So there's a real opportunity, I think, if you work in the people and culture space, to really engage, whether it's, kind of working with your brand team, or they might be kind of, you focus more specifically on consumer or product, but to actually utilize the amazing work that's been done in the organization, because anything you're doing with your employees is ultimately going to feed up into your master brand. And as Gemma said, if we're talking about bottom line, if you've got 790 free influencers, that's certainly going to save a few pennies, and that can be invested elsewhere into the business. So it's fantastic what you can do just by supporting your people.
And JR, one of the things I love that your team do is when we have the kickoff meeting with our customers, they actually bring, they encourage not only HR or our key sponsor, but this is a great chance, bring in brand, bring in comms, bring in everybody, and let's make this a whole of business approach. Yeah. So, we've got plays to support all of those different areas and really work to drive it across, the whole business. And I really love that your team do that. So well done. So Gemma, I love this slide. Let's talk to the moments that matter.
Yeah, and a lot of this is, you can see this is just a slide here that talks through what are the moments that matter, and a lot of this is research backed. And Jodi and I were on a call with Border recently, and their research showed that employee experience, one of the key moments that matters is parental leave in particular, and it's the most under-supported experience. And if you nail that, then you are going to, preaching here to the choir, but if you nail that, then you are going to have a fundamentally better employee experience. So we start with, what are the moments when joining an organization? If a parent or carer is looking to join your organization, what are the signals that they're looking for to ensure that they are going to be able to manage the juggle, right? They're going to be wanting to see that overtly through your employer brand, through your careers website, through your advertising channels. They're going to be checking around. They're going to be saying, oh, I worked with that person before. I want to check in with them and see, is it really an organization that truly supports parents and carers? We then go through the typical process here of expecting, planning a baby. And, we'll go through a slide in a minute that's a little bit more of a deep dive into someone's personal experience. But you can see here, what are the questions we're trying to solve for? what is the journey of IVF? You know, everyone's journey to having a baby is different. I'm in a same-sex relationship. My wife and I went through IVF. It was super quick and successful the first time, and it took seven attempts the second time. I'm going to need different amounts of flexibility and time off. Do I feel safe to tell my employer that that's why I need time off? What are the signals in the organization that say that I'm going to get that support? And these are really important fundamental things. Also, when you're kind of going through that expecting period as well, you know, not everything goes to plan. And I think that's another thing that we wanted to highlight here is you have to be here for the moments that matter on the upside and the downside. You have to show that you care not only in the positive experiences, but the ones that are really hard. We had a great example the other day, Jodi. I don't know if you've got that audio clip.
Yeah, we're going to try and share it. Yeah, so you're spot on, Gemma, and that's one of the things that we do pride ourselves on, in that, you know, there's lots of great moments and we want to be there for those, but unfortunately there are other moments when someone loses a baby. You know, how do you return to the workplace? You know, as a manager, how do you support someone, you know, in your team has lost a baby? And on one of our customer calls recently, one of our customers shared with us the journey of or the experience of one of their employees who recently suffered a stillbirth. And I'm just going to play this. Hopefully it does work. Can you hear that?
No, we can't hear that. We might come back to it in a second, Jodes. I think we just have to.
Yeah. So so I can talk to it. Let me just just go back here. So essentially, what happened was one of their employees suffered a stillbirth. It was tragic. It was awful. And our customer reached out to us and, you know, needed very quickly some resources to support their parent, but also their manager. Now we have all of that on our portal. So we were very quickly able to provide those back. As a result, the employee had I don't want to say a great experience, but felt truly supported by their employer and were able to kind of navigate through, you know, the next little while. And likewise, the manager was able to be there in that moment and really support the employee. But what's great to see is that what went on from that was that employee actually wanted to share their story more broadly and help support others. And they've now gone on to, you know, really be a role model in the organization. And the flow-on effect has just been huge in terms of, you know, the support and the conversation that it started in the organization. So I know they truly, you know, we're very thankful for what we were able to provide them at that moment. And it's now supported, you know, thousands of others in the organization.
Yeah, so I think the takeaway here is that the moments that matter aren't just the obvious ones, such as let's make sure someone has a really nice hamper when they go on leave, which I'm sure everyone appreciates. But actually, when I'm going through a tough time, do the leaders have the capacity and capability to show up and support me? And how do I feel about that? So this just shows the moments that matter across those areas. Just getting back to work, where do I breastfeed? Are there facilities? You know, what is my experience going to be in terms of my future career? I left with a really good career goal. I'm back 9 months later. Is that goal still possible for me? Let's check in. Are we having those conversations? And then the ongoing life is normalizing working parent life in all its joys and all its challenges. So hopefully that gives you a visual to take forward and think about in your organization. The next slide actually takes it to a way deeper level. So we've used a persona here of Ava, which is the, you know, does it all working parent here. Ava, we have used this avatar, 44 years old, head of comms at a global tech company, 17 years experience, and this company has just under 3,000 employees in this example. This slide here is a gift to you, I'm going to say, because this is really the future of diversity, equity, and inclusion work in organizations. If your organization is thinking about how do we increase the number of women in leadership roles in our organization? If you're not paying attention to how women navigate life and work at an experiential level, you are going to be facing barriers, and that is going to compromise your ability to achieve those goals of 40-40-20 senior leadership and gender balance. So when you have these targets and these goals, if you're wondering why you've got a glacial pace of change in achieving them, take an experiential view. And this is an example of how you can do that. In this example, Ava's considering a baby up front, commenced IVF journey. What tools would you have to support Ava through that process? What is Ava seeing in your organization that helps her with that moment in her life? We've then talked about a situation of baby loss, and Jodi just echoed this experience here. But how does your organisation show up for Ava as someone who's potential talent for a leadership role down the track with 17 years of solid experience when she goes through one of the most painful moments probably of her life and the life of her and her family? Then we've got first this idea of the journey support, the checklists when baby comes along, returning to work. How does she feel? Does she still feel like she is valued by the organization? Is she still on the map for future leadership roles? Does she have to feel that she has to take a decreased level of responsibility in order to juggle life as a working parent? Because all of these things that we're talking about now, they factor into whether Ava is going to possibly, be able to be on your, succession planning list. And it's not because there's anything wrong with Ava, and that's what we need to shift. Ava's a great candidate. She's a great employee. She's got capabilities and talents. We have to look at the experience and the environment that supports Ava to thrive into leadership. It's not about fixing Ava, it's about fixing the experience in the workplace. So how do we do that? The first step is we take an experience view, and you can see here all of the considerations we need to think about, right through to even the conversations we're having lately around menopause. So we look at age and we look at stage, and it's not just parenting stage, it's about how our bodies as women change and evolve, and how we can actually show up and acknowledge these changes in life in order to create an exceptional experience and make the most of the talent that we've got in our pipelines. So hopefully this gives you a different way of looking at tackling your diversity, equity and inclusion challenges in the future, and a really good example of a working parent over a 5+ year tenure with your organisation. It's going to change, and you realising that is the first step to you being able to unlock better outcomes with diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, perfect, Gemma. And we're just sharing some results now from a poll a few people have responded to around, what area do you think your brand could benefit from more support? And it looks like on leave and working parenthood, are definitely up there. But I think you've summarized that beautifully. And I think you're right. This is our gift to you in that, we've mapped out the experience. You can make this, you can do this all yourself, which, for some companies, that's, you're equipped to be able to provide that level of support. If not, that's where things like our platform come in. And I can promise you that every dot point there is covered by the Circle In platform. Everything from providing the right support at various journey stages to the manager support, the manager nudges. We even now cover menopause, which for a lot of our customers is, high up there on the priority list right now. So I hope that helps you in terms of thinking about the various stages and the journey that Ava has had potentially, over 10 years with her company. And you can imagine if you put yourself in Ava's shoes, if you had that experience, just think about how you'd think or you'd talk about your company. And the advocacy that you would be, spreading externally in regards to the support. So now we want to talk to you about 6 plays, and these are kind of takeaway plays that really you can take back into your workplace, really think about some ways that, you can embed this and you can take the first step to creating a family-friendly workplace. So the first one is really, how can you move beyond just having a policy? And to Gemma's point, how can you take that experience first approach? So for a lot of companies that do come to us, they're very much at this stage where they have a fantastic policy. It might even be, a global policy. It's gender neutral. They've got, they're ticking all the boxes, but what they don't have is the support in place. So that's where platforms like the Circle In platform do come in to really support you and really take it to the next level and provide the support at the various stages. So yeah, think about it in that way in terms of, obviously getting the policy right is one step and a very important step, but the support to complement the policy is absolutely critical. The next one, we'd love you to think about is, what support are you providing to your managers right now? How are you equipping them to have the right conversations? And I say it time and time again, but, managers do want to do the right thing, but often they don't know what to do. So their default is to do nothing. And, we often get, emails at Christmas time from parents who are on leave who are upset because they weren't invited to, the work Christmas party. But I often say, you know, did you set that expectation with your manager? Did you ask to be invited? Because on the flip side, managers are often sitting there, you know, thinking, oh, I'll leave Ava. She's at home having, you know, enjoying her first lot of parental leave. So really think about how you can equip your managers to be able to lead and have the right conversations at the right time. And again, you know, we have our manager hub and our manager nudges, but for you, it might be as simple as just thinking about a few conversation guides to really support your managers. Other things that some of our customers have run with us are manager webinars, where we've upskilled managers to really, you know, educate them on the role that they can play. The next is probably one that is something I am absolutely passionate about, and we stand for at Circle In, and it's such a simple thing, but to shift the language and the conversation from working mothers to working parents. That one word can have such an impact in your organization. Inclusion does matter, and you know, it's unanimous across every customer we work with. There's absolutely no hesitation, not a single doubt of actually moving that conversation. So they are all about working parents. The platform is offered to all of their working parents and families. So just think about how you're communicating internally at the moment. What language are you using? Is it inclusive? And you know, what would it take for you to change that one word and shift the conversation? The next is around, you know, creating a culture that supports parental leave with role modeling. You've heard the stat early on about, you know, 56% don't believe that their senior leaders are role modeling support for working parents. So think about your organization. What does your executive team look like? You know, your CEO, your executive team, your senior leaders, are they creating the right culture? Are they role modeling support, you know, in terms of flexibility, and so forth? And if they're not, think about, you know, what can you do to actually change that? And one of the things we do is, as I said, storytelling. It is without doubt the best way to drive cultural change. So again, we can do all that for you, or think about how you can start to create these stories. And we always say, if it's a great story, share it more broadly, share it on LinkedIn. There's no better way to drive your reputation. Which kind of leads to the next one. I guess they're both connected, and that's around the storytelling, and that it does really create ripples and you know, let your experience become your talent brand. So again, the work of storytelling and how that can play into the talent brand and so forth, it's absolutely, you know, an untapped opportunity for a lot of organizations. So really think about those two in parallel. And the last is around employee resource groups. And I know this is kind of a new term here in Australia, and it's something that a lot of our US companies, you know, they're very big on in terms of having ERGs within their organization. But can you think about creating an employee resource group or a parent group? You know, who can sponsor that? Can you open it up so that you've actually got a real variety of parents running that group and really driving this culture within your organizations? So again, we work with our customers to embed those and to actually bring it to life. But it's not hard, and there's just a few simple steps to really get that going. So they're just a couple of plays. As I said, we have a number. I think we've got about 20 or 30 plays that we work with our various customers on, but we wanted to just bring today, you know, 6 to give you a taste of just some quick wins that maybe you can start to think about in your organization. Gemma or JR, I don't know if you wanted to add anything further. No, all good, perfect. So with that, been 40 minutes, we said we wanted to be bang on 40 minutes. So I might just wrap up with just a little bit about us and actually, you know, what we do. And that is that, you know, we create a personalized program for your working families and managers. As I said, we support, you know, the world's leading companies now. We have a global platform, which means that we can scale globally. One seamless login, but we create local country portals for you. And really what we do is deliver curated content across the various journey stages. So for your parents, you know, everyone from planning a baby right through to life as a working parent with teenagers. We also now have introduced the Carers Hub. And, you know, we have practical resources, guides, conversation guides, videos, you name it. We've got content really to meet all needs. You know, our brand is very real and very practical. So what you will find on our site are bite-sized pieces of information that your families can really consume on demand as and when they like. And then obviously we have the manager proposition, which is our manager hub and nudges. And further to that, we want to make sure you as HR are finding value. So I mentioned that we pride ourselves on data and insights. So we provide you with a monthly utilisation report, a very detailed report to ensure you're getting the most out of the platform, and an annual report that looks at everything we've been talking about today, and that is engagement, advocacy and confidence levels. So it is a comprehensive one-stop shop. Our partners love it. We have 100% retention and an NPS score of 86. And very proud to say that, we've got a number of companies that are joining us shortly, and I'll show you those in a moment. But I will end with just a quick case study, and that is Coca-Cola. They've now been with us coming on to their third year. And you can see some of the metrics at the top in terms of, 94% will recommend Coke now is a great place to work as a result of the support. They feel more positive. 83% say it exceeds their expectation. But what we're most excited about is that they've seen a positive drop in attrition in the last 12 months. So from 18 to 10%. Now, obviously, that's due to a number of factors, new flexibility policies. So we've really worked with them on a number of dimensions. But it's fair to say that, our platform and our offering has provided, the right level of support and much needed support to all of their parents. And with that, probably the slide that we're most proud of, and I shared this morning with the team, and I won't lie, there's been a lot of banter on the Slack channel, a lot of, proud moments, and we're very, very proud to partner with what we say are the world's leading organisations. And these are companies that genuinely want to do the right thing by their parents. They are committed to really supporting families in the best way possible. And as I said, we've retained every single customer because they can see the ROI. So a fantastic group. And if you're on the call right now and you're from one of these organisations, well done to you, especially for continuing to support your parents through COVID. I think, we've all seen budgets dropping, but what we haven't seen across our customers is, a reduction in commitment to their parents. And they absolutely find budget to re-sign with us because they are truly committed to continuing to provide the right support. So with that, that wraps up our session today. Hopefully you've found value. You've been taken on a journey with us around, the why, the opportunity, and then, a few takeaways. We'd love to talk with you if you're interested in learning more, whether it's to find out more about our data and research, more about the platform, or just in general, have a conversation. So thank you for being part of today. Thank you to my fabulous co-hosts, Gemma and JR. Your knowledge and insight is always appreciated, and we absolutely love working with you. And as I said, we're looking forward to rolling out our expert panel in January, who we currently work with, but just looking at formalising it and launching that early next year. So with that, thank you to everyone. Have a wonderful Friday. The sun is shining here in Melbourne, so I think everyone's pretty excited about the weekend, but enjoy, and thank you for being part of our circle and our presentation today.
Thanks, everyone. I might just jump in quickly. If you just have a look in the chat, you can also join our Slack community. This is a great place to share kind of peer-to-peer experiences, lob in some questions about best practice if you need any support across any areas around supporting working parents and carers and D&I in general. We have a number of our employees who kind of jump in to address your questions and help you out. And we also have our experts as well who can contribute in that area. So join our community. We'll welcome you into our circle with a warm cup of hot chocolate or a wine, depending on what kind of day you've had. But thanks everyone for joining, and we hope to see you on our Slack channels, and follow us on the socials as well if you want to know more.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.